Hi, my name is Ava Palmer, and this is my project 2. I decided to build off of my first project, and my first project was analyzing fatal car accidents that occurred in 2022 in Tennessee. And this is my finished map, and as you can see, this is the legend for this, so you can see how many fatal accidents there are per census tract. And I also did how many of those had alcohol involved, and you can see some in there, and how many of those were pedestrian related, and you can see a lot right here and a lot right here. So for my project 2, I decided to build off of this and figure out how liquor store locations and bar locations in Tennessee may have correlated to these fatal car accidents. So, to get my information, I had to go to this website right here, the Tennessee Alcoholic Beverage Commission, because I knew that they would have maybe addresses for all of the licensed places, because there's like forms they have to fill out to be able to sell alcohol and stuff like that. And I couldn't find any list of addresses, so I ended up having to fill out a request form, and they sent me 2 lists of all the liquor locations or liquor store locations and bar locations in Tennessee. And it was in an Excel file format, and I had the address. So I needed a way to plug that into QGIS, and I knew that Google Sheets had a way that you could geocode different addresses, so I just had to copy and paste the address, and I downloaded an extension called Geocoding by SmartMonkey, and I pretty much just had to copy the address and then run the geocoding, and it took a little while because I believe there were about 809 liquor stores, and there were almost 5,000 bar locations in Tennessee. So it took a while for that to run, but eventually it gave me the coordinates for the latitude and longitude. And unfortunately, in this format, it's not easy to just plug it into QGIS because it doesn't recognize this as 2 separate things. Or maybe there is a way and I just couldn't figure it out. So I actually just took this, copied and pasted it into Excel. And Excel has a cool feature where it's called, I think it's called text to columns. And so it's just one column, and then I told Excel, hey, there's a comma separating these 2. I want the next part to be in a different column. And so I just labeled them latitude and longitude. And I did this for both the bar locations and the liquor store locations. And then I went to QGIS and I added the delimited text layer and input both of those. And a weird thing I've noticed about QGIS is that the latitude and longitude are sort of flipped. So you'd think that the X would be latitude, but you actually have to put in longitude. Otherwise, your points are just kind of everywhere and they're not where they're supposed to be. Anyways, so I plugged both those layers in and I got these 2. So these are all of the locations of liquor stores and bars in Tennessee. And as you can see, there's a lot in Knoxville and a lot in Nashville and Memphis. So for my project, I really wanted to focus on the why. Like, how come Memphis has so many fatal car accidents while surprisingly Nashville doesn't have, hardly any. And there's a few here, but most of them are in Memphis. So I was just trying to do some research on, what makes Memphis different from these other places. And an interesting article that I found from y.org called Philly Changed Traffic Stop Laws to Try to Protect Black Drivers. Memphis is following suit. So essentially, what the article was saying is that Memphis drivers have less of a risk from getting pulled over if they are, driving erratically, or if they have headlights out or their lights aren't on, and just different things like that. The police officers will not pull them over. So I just thought that this may be one of the contributing factors to why there are so many fatal car accidents in Memphis, is because drivers feel like they will have less consequences for drunk driving, and they just feel like since they won't get pulled over for whatever it is, that they can just, drive how they want or drink and drive. But of course, that's just speculation. I don't know that for sure, but it's just one of the big differences I noticed between that area and other areas. And I also noticed that there are a lot of pedestrian involved car accidents as well in this area. So that's what these blue census tracts are. Like, the darker the blue, the more pedestrian involved vehicle accidents there have been. And so that just means that somebody was walking on the road and a car hit them. So I also noticed that there were a lot of those accidents in Nashville as well. And that makes sense because these are two, big cities where people primarily walk around to get to where they're going. But I just wondered, obviously the liquor and bar locations are not the only reason why there are so many fatal accidents, but I think that it is a huge contributing factor to why there are so many pedestrian involved fatal accidents, at least in Memphis and Nashville. Because I think combined with alcohol and maybe not good or not adequate lighting in these areas, and I don't think that the sidewalks are necessarily large enough either. So I just don't think that there are enough safety guidelines in place in these cities. Obviously, just telling from how many pedestrian accidents happened in 2022, and that's just 22 alone, and there are, so many of them just in this area, that there has to be something that is not adding up. And I really do think it's a mix of the alcohol and inadequate lighting and things of that nature that just makes these cities so unsafe. Okay, so that pretty much sums up my project 2 about how bar locations and liquor store locations correlate to fatal car accidents. I learned a lot from doing this, and I hope that it was interesting to hear about. Thank you.